All right, so video number 13 tonight. There's a reason I left this team for last because, it's the worst team in the league. It's typically always the worst team in the league as far as drafting. And, yeah, I'm not really going to go. I don't even really need to grade the team. The team's on like a different, scale, I guess you could say. Eileen is playing a different game, as Patrick has told me before, and I completely agree with that. Eileen's just playing a different game. So, this will more be just a review of the players that were drafted. I'm sure some of you will simply watch this to have a better sense of what you can trade for later from her team, which is unfortunate. But I do like some of the players, so I guess we will go from there. So first pick, first round, 9 overall, we took Austin Ekeler. So I like Austin Ekeler. I like him quite a bit. Ekeler without Melvin Gordon was the number 2 fantasy running back in football last year. Once Melvin Gordon came back, he was the number 8 fantasy running back last year. So I'm actually pretty surprised that he fell all the way to 9. I know there were, obviously, Miles Sanders had a small sample size of 5 games where he really showed out without Jordan Howard, and Derrick Henry was the rushing champ, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I love the upside. I guess Dalvin Cook has injury issues, but really had a breakthrough season. But Eckler's always been pretty good, and now it's really his first opportunity to just be the guy the whole season, and even more so than that. Their head coach is Anthony Lynn, former NFL running back Anthony Lynn, who's really well known for developing LaShawn McCoy in Buffalo. He's also known for winning 2 Super Bowls with the Broncos behind Terrell Davis. And they have Tyrod Taylor as their quarterback, so everyone's kind of afraid, Philip Rivers had a real connection with Melvin Gordon. I don't believe that, but that's what people say. Never liked Melvin Gordon. I've always liked Austin Ekeler. He's super duper efficient. He's like McCaffrey light version. So I'm surprised that Ekeler fell this far, mostly because I thought Ekeler was probably one of the safer picks in our league, to be completely honest with you. I think a lot of people are sleeping on him because he was quietly really, really good last year, man. So, yeah, you have Justin Jackson, and yeah, they took Joshua Kelly in the 4th round out of UCLA. But do we really think those guys are going to take this job? This isn't like they took someone in the 2nd or 3rd round. And I like Justin Jackson. He might be the goal line back, and that might be the only thing stopping Ekeler a bit. But they gave Ekeler a contract extension. They obviously believe in him. Anthony Lynn's been raving about him, and Anthony Lynn, as I've mentioned, knows quite a bit about running backs. So I think Ekeler, again, is kind of like McCaffrey light. I think his workload will kind of be that of a James White-esque. I don't think he's going to get more than 150 carries, so he'll maybe get 500 yards rushing. But receiving, he's, again, like McCaffrey light. He might push for 1,000 yards receiving. He might get 90 receptions. So, as a receiver out of the backfield, he's probably the number 1 target now for the Chargers. Not Keenan Allen, not Mike Williams, not Hunter Henry, Austin Ekeler. So he might get 1,000 yards receiving and 11 touchdowns between it. That's top 5 fantasy goodness. Even on an offense that I think is super run heavy, he's the man. So I'm quietly surprised he fell this far. But again, as I've mentioned in almost all the videos, most of the first round picks are pretty on par. I really like Josh Jacobs, who was taken next. I really like Kenyon Drake, who I finally had his breakout. I really like Aaron Jones, who had his breakout last year. Nick Chubb is super great. I like almost every pick in the first round. It's really, everyone did a good job. I might quibble with where someone was taken, but it's pretty by the book. Especially even Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas shouldn't have gone 12th, but everyone wants a running back, so I get it. But he's fantastic. but I think people are sleeping on Eckler. I don't think people really understand like the excellence of Eckler. If I was going to take Clyde Edwards-Helaire like 4, and I was going to take Kamara like 5, I would probably consider Eckler over Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook and Miles Sanders and Josh Jacobs, if only because Eckler, I know, has a lot of volume in this offense, and I think last year he quietly was very excellent the whole year. He's never been hurt, unlike Cook. He just got paid and he's the guy. So unlike, say, like Miles Sanders, he didn't have like some magical breakout over half a season like Kenyon Drake. I mean, he's just quietly been working away. He's a very, very safe pick. So this was a very, very good start to the draft. Next, we took Odell Beckham Jr. So I had Odell Beckham Jr. last year, the Odell experience. That was not a fun ride. I also took him in the second round last year. Did I think he was worth the second round pick? No. Did I think he was worth the second round pick this year? Still no. I think Odell Beckham Jr. might be the most talented wide receiver in football. More talented than DeAndre Hopkins, more talented than Julio Jones. Obviously not as fast as Tyreek Hill, but more talented. Just jumping ability, speed, obviously his ability to accelerate, his quickness, his hands. He has everything you could want almost in like a Hall of Fame wide receiver. The problem is he's kind of just now stuck in like an offense that I'm kind of wary of. I'm not really sure about Baker Mayfield. And then on top of that, I don't know how healthy he's going to be. Like, he was fighting that core muscle issue the entire year last year, and he's just been dinged up. He's just been dinged up the last few years. And we're hoping last year was the outlier. Prior to last year, he was averaging almost a touchdown a game for his career. And then last year happened, and I had 4 touchdowns. So, I mean, credit to him. What he did was a down year. Like, for some guys, that might be a career year. He had 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns. But, like, I didn't draft that. I drafted I wanted a 1,500-yard receiver with, like, double-digit touchdowns. And we haven't gotten that now in 3 years. It's been a while, all right? That's consistently what, like, DeAndre Hopkins and Julio Jones and Devontae Adams have been doing 2 or 3 or 4 years in a row. Michael Thomas. And so it's tough for me to get excited about Beckham because he's not in a new place now. Now he's in Cleveland still. We have, again, Kevin Stefanski as the new head coach who wants to bring that Minnesota offense. Unless you're going to tell me that he's already stated he wants to use Jarvis Landry as Adam Thielen. I see that. I see Austin Hooper as Kyle Rudolph. I see that. I see Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb as kind of like the Dalvin Cook hybrid. I see that. But I don't see Odell as Diggs. We haven't really talked about that. Diggs is a really, really precise route runner. Odell's not that. Odell's just a talent beater. He's kind of like Randy Moss with the amount of talent he's got. And so you got to feed him. And I just don't think they're going to feed him. At least not enough to justify this kind of draft capital. So it's hard for me to get super excited about this. I mean, I like him. I drafted him. I've always thought he was really great, but like he was out-targeted by like Jarvis Landry. Like Jarvis Landry's a very good player, all right? But Odell is excellent. You got to give him like 150 targets, man. You got to build your offense around him. You got to feed him. And I don't think they're going to feed him. I think they're just going to be like, yeah, he's really, really good, and we're paying him a lot of money, so we're just going to use him kind of like a decoy and try and feature our other players. And I kind of hate that. So I don't love it. I would probably have taken him in like the late 3rd round, maybe even 4th. There's just basically almost every receiver in the next 2 rounds is probably I would have taken over him. So we're talking like what? Julio, Hopkins, Godwin, Evans, Tyreek Hill, Kenny Galladay, DJ Moore, Adam Thielen. Yeah, basically, I would take almost everyone except for maybe Moore and Thielen, just because I need to see more from Moore in a new offense, and I'd like to see Thielen be healthy. But the other guys I would probably take over OBJ, just because I really, really, really respect and like the talent a lot, but I don't like the situation at all. So, but he's your number one receiver. I can't knock it too much. Just don't love him in Cleveland. It sucks. Cleveland sucks. Next, we took Raheem Mostert off his amazing, incredible NFC Championship game where he had 16 carries for 220 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, monster gain. He is basically like Derrick Henry. The worry is his workload is going to be in and out because they like to, in San Francisco, just like he did in Atlanta, they like to use a committee, and San Francisco's got a lot of running backs. Even with the trade of Matt Breida, we still got Jerick McKinnon apparently is healthy now. We have Tevin Coleman is back, and we have Jeff Wilson Jr. too. So Mostert isn't much of a pass catcher. He's not much of a pass blocker. I mean, the pass catcher is probably Coleman. The pass blocker is probably, the pass catcher is probably McKinnon. The pass blocker is probably Coleman. And then Wilson's going to fill in the gaps. Mostert just one thing and one thing well. You give him the ball, you put someone in front of him like a fullback. They have Kyle Jasek. Can never get his name right. You put a fullback in front of him and just let him go. It's kind of like the Adrian Peterson, put a fullback in front of him and let him go. Leonard Fournette, put a fullback in front of him and let him go. He's a hammer. Sonny Michel, put a fullback in front of him and let him go. The reason why I actually am comfortable with taking him in the third round, though, is because I'm not really buying Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't really love their weapons. I know we took Brandon Ayuk in the first round. I know we like Kendrick Bourne. I know people are on Dante Pettis. Other than Kittle, I'm out on the receiving core as a whole. Until I see somebody do it, I'm out, because we've been cycling through all these mediocre receivers for a while. And then we had a trade for Emmanuel Sanders, then he left. So I'm out on the 49ers receivers as like a whole. And even though I like all of the other running backs in this backfield, Mostert is really, really good at what he does, which is just, again, follow the fullback and go. So he doesn't get the volume, which is scary. Like, until week 13, he didn't get 10 carries from week 3 through week 13. So 10 weeks. 10 weeks last year, he did not get 10 carries. But once he does, he really gets going. So he's their goal line back. He's super duper efficient. We're talking like 7 yards a rush, 5 yards a rush. I mean, that's an average game for this guy. He's an animal when he gets the ball. He just needs to get the ball a lot. He's like a better version of Chris Carson. If I could put him in Seattle, I would say he could be a top 5 back. That's how good he is at running the ball. But he just doesn't do the other stuff well at all. So it's frightening because his volume is super duper low. But we saw the upside in the NFC Championship game. He can thrive when there's positive game script. What is positive game script? Essentially, positive game script means that if I'm ahead, so my team's ahead, it's positive for the running back because I'm going to run the ball and run out the clock. Negative game script is when I'm behind and I need to catch up, so I'm going to throw the ball a lot. So basically, we're hoping that the 49ers are ahead more often than not, and Mostert gets the ball a lot. So I think that'll happen because they're a really good team. I don't know how much of a Super Bowl hangover they'll go, but I could see them winning like 9-10 games. And Mostert, I hope Shanahan recognizes the kind of talent he has. I'm kind of weary of him being a running back number 2 again because, like, unless we're getting him the volume, it's probably not worth it, but I really, really respect and like the talent. I mean, this guy's been grinding for 5 years. I mean, he was on Cleveland as an undrafted free agent. He was in Baltimore. He was in Miami. He had to work special teams. And like last year, he finally got his chance, and they reworked his contract. He's just getting a little bit of money. He's getting like $3 million, so just a little bit of money for a running back. And actually, I don't even think of that. I think it's like two. And I'm really hoping that he gets more of this full-time gig because of all the running backs in San Francisco. He's probably the most talented. He's the best at what he does, and I can respect, considering the run on running backs. I think that in the third round, if we wanted to go another running back, and all the rookies were gone, this was the best selection. Because, I mean, after that, there was like Howard, timeshare, Kareem Hunt, timeshare. I mean, we're getting timeshares. Mostert's in a timeshare, but he's really, really good at what he does. And the team's really good, and I'm hoping he gets more of an opportunity because he showed how good he is. It's hard to be an undrafted free agent working special teams in like Cleveland and then 5 years later be the starting running back in the Super Bowl. That's really, really hard. I really respect a motivated player like that. So I hope just for the player's sake that he shows more, and I think that, it's a good selection considering everything that was going on in this round. I really liked him. I might have even taken him myself. Next, we took breakout candidate A.J. Brown. So A.J. Brown had a breakout last year under the Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry Tennessee offense. He was the number one pass catcher. Again, rookie receivers, man. Sometimes they can break out. All right, we talked about Terry McLaurin. A.J. Brown was another one. A.J. was a top 10 receiver last year. Quietly, very, very quietly, he was a top 10 receiver. I don't even think he was drafted. So he is going to be the guy in Tennessee. It's just a matter of how much volume is he going to see in Tennessee, considering they like to run the ball so much. But last year he only had like 52 receptions, and he still got 1,000 yards. That's really, really efficient. So, all we're really hoping for with AJ is maybe like 60 receptions. 65 would be great. Another 1,000-yard season. I could see 8 touchdowns because there's just, people have talked to me about Jonnu Smith, and personally, like I've mentioned in the video, Jonnu's really, really efficient, but the amount of work he's getting is like 25 receptions, 30 receptions. Like that's just it's not enough. Jonnu Smith is super efficient with those 30 receptions, but like if Darren Waller's getting like 96, who do you think's the better tight end? It's Waller by a lot. Because he's just seeing so much more volume, a third more of the volume. So Brown is, again, scary because I don't know how much volume he's going to get. These are kind of, like Mostert, these are kind of usually players where I'm just like, the talent's there, but it's hard because the volume's not. But I think Brown, he was a top 10 receiver last year, and that was only with Tannehill basically being there for like 2/3 of the season as the starting quarterback. So, I think he can keep it up. I hope he can keep it up. I know they're super run heavy with Henry, but you got to pass the ball to somebody. Like, there's no way you can't have a receiver not get 50 catches in a season if you're going to be competing for a playoff spot. That is not possible, in my estimation at least. So, I really like Lockett, who was taken after him. I like the dice roll on Smith-Schuster. But Brown was really, really good last year. People don't realize how good he was. So for like a top 10 wide receiver to fall the 4th round is like pretty crazy. Especially mid 4th round too. We're not talking early. So I like it for the value. I just hope, again, he gets the volume because he's a yards after catch monster. He can turn like a crossing route of 15 yards into a touchdown. He can just go. He just has that kind of speed. So for Eileen, this is a big play, kind of risky wide receiver. This is where kind of the draft goes a bit off. Well, we're not going to say a bit. This is where the draft goes off the rails a lot. One other thing though. If I could switch Brown and Odell Beckham Jr.'s draft position, I would that would be perfect. So I guess it kind of works. Odell's technically the number 2 receiver. Brown's the number 1. I don't love the receiving core, but Brown's really good, and Odell has a lot of talent. He just needs, again, volume, and we're not, Eckler's getting a lot of volume. The other 3 are not, so what are you going to do? So next, he took a hometown pick, took Brady, who plays for the Bucks. It's going to be so weird on Sunday watching him in, like, a Bucks pewter and red playing against the Saints. Like, I never in a million years thought Tom Brady would play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That just sounds so strange to me. Yeah, I mean, Brady's the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time. He's 43, so he's old, but, I mean, he's got a lot of really good weapons. I think they're going to run the ball more than a lot of people think, just because they'll be ahead. I think that's why you go get Leonard Fournette, you go get LaShawn McCoy, you go draft Keyshawn Vaughn. Notice I didn't mention someone's name because I hate them. But yeah, no, I see Brady getting 4,000 yards. I see Brady getting like maybe a lower end of number of touchdowns, like maybe only like 25. I know people are just like, oh, he could be the MVP. I mean, he could, but he doesn't have to be. You don't usually want a guy putting up huge, crazy numbers in order to win. You usually want a guy to put up very good numbers and then turn on the playoffs. So, I mean, obviously, I think this is an overdraft of Brady. I think he's more a top 10 quarterback than a top. I mean, he was the second quarterback taken off the board before Mahomes. So, do I agree with that? No, but it's a homer pick. You support Brady, I get it. So I don't hate it, and he'll have a good season. He'll be a starting fantasy quality quarterback. Yeah, but that's kind of where the draft went off the rails a bit. So we've taken 2 wide receivers. We filled both our starting running backs. We've gotten a good quality quarterback. And then why don't we go get a flex? No, we're not going to. Okay, we're not going to get a flex. All right. So next we took Alexander Mattison, who's like the backup to Dalvin Cook. I don't know why we don't go get a flex, but sure. I mean, Madison's a good handcuff. I mentioned this in Mac's video with like Latavius Murray taking the 4th round. There's no real sense to why I'm taking a handcuff in like the 6th round. Why am I drafting like Dalvin Cook in like the 1st round if I have to use like a 6th round pick on like his handcuff? No. So yeah, I mean, if Cook gets hurt, Madison will be good. You have to hope Cook gets hurt. With his injury history, probably will before too long, but he's going to play like at least, I want to say, like 10 weeks or so. I mean, until then, Madison's just going to be chilling on your bench, so maybe 100 carries, 400 yards, a couple touchdowns. Cook just steals all the volume. So I would probably trade him to the Cook team owner, which would be Robbie, because I mean, Madison doesn't really do you any good. It's not like he's going to be playing for you anytime soon. After that, we took Evan Ingram, so I suppose we're filling our tight end needs. Ingram was on his way to a breakout campaign, but wait for it, he got injured. Why does that sound familiar? Because it always happens. He was on pace for 80 receptions, 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns, but he only played what? I think he only played half. Yeah, he only played half the season. So, I mean, 45 catches, 450 yards, really good for half a season. Can he keep that up? Is he the number 1 option? Can he be a set it and forget it tight end? To be completely honest, I am uncertain. We have now a new coaching staff, and while I like Ingram as a player, I don't trust him to stay healthy or get the volume. I don't trust second-year quarterback Daniel Jones either. So he's startable for sure, just based on the fact that he played really, really well in half the season. He seemed to have the best rapport. I still think the number 1 option is Golden Tate. Don't sell me on Sterling Shepard. I like Darius Slayton a lot. Ingram was really good, but he didn't get all that much play with Daniel Jones. So, yeah, no, he's your starting tight end. That's really it. He's a middle of the pack starting tight end. I don't really have too much else to say. It's not terribly exciting. Maybe he'll turn into something. We still need a flex. Where's the flex? So now we're taking another handcuff running back. We've taken Darrington Evans, who is, I guess, the third round back, replacing Dion Lewis in Tennessee. I like him as a receiver. He came out of Appalachian State. He has good hands. So that'll help complement Derrick Henry, even though it's a rush-heavy offense. But, again, not filling our needs, just kind of ignoring starters and taking backups. Andre has Derrick Henry? Yeah, Andre has Derrick Henry. I considered trading him to Andre, seeing what I could get, because he's just going to chill on my bench until Derrick Henry gets hurt. Still not taking a flex, so now we're going into round 9. We took a second quarterback. So let me say it again. These are the teams that took backup quarterbacks. Alex and Hannah, rookie, so we can kind of put them aside. Stefan, Charlie, and Eileen. There's no reason to take a backup quarterback. Even if you told me, oh, well, what if Tom Brady gets COVID? If Tom Brady gets COVID, I'm going to go pick up somebody off free agency who's decent. Otherwise, if Tom Brady doesn't get COVID, I have a player who's going to play 1 week in 16 weeks for me. And, again, he's just going to chill on my bench. So, I mean, is Matt Ryan a top 10 quarterback in the NFL? I believe so. Is he a starting quarterback in fantasy? Yeah. But we're taking a backup quarterback instead of filling in a starter slot at flex still. Why? I don't know why. I have no idea. So, I mean, I could see 4,200 yards, 25 touchdowns, maybe more interceptions, so maybe like 13, but roughly kind of like Brady stats, which is funny because I actually have Matt Ryan ranked ahead of Brady, but we got Ryan 4 rounds after Brady? So, yeah. I still need to start at flex. Taking a second quarterback, I guess. Sure. Okay. Still need to start at flex. We took Matt Milano, who's a linebacker for Buffalo. I like Buffalo linebackers. They're a counting team up there that counts tackles. Real fun. So I can see 100 tackles. He's a good, solid linebacker. We took Harrison Butker, so we took a kicker over a starter at flex. He was the number 1 kicker last year with Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. I don't believe in taking kickers before the last round, but I guess we're filling in a need, sort of. Sure, okay. We took Bud Dupree, the defensive end for the Steelers. He had 12 sacks this year. Very good player. I like him a lot. He's a good blitzer. We took another defensive end, Matthew Judon, so I guess he's our second defensive player on our team. We took Kenny Moore, the cornerback out of Indianapolis, who, he only played first, why are we taking a cornerback? Why didn't we take a safety? And also, he only played 11 games last year. I don't think he's ever played more than 13 games in a season. And he's not even a good shadow corner. So he's not going to get 100 tackles. He's not going to get more than a handful of interceptions. Still need to start at flex. Still waiting. Still waiting. Took Brandon Ayuk. I guess maybe he was supposed to be the starter at flex, but he's hurt right now. I like him. He's the rookie wide receiver for the 49ers. They went up and traded up to get him. This was the deepest receiving class I consider ever in NFL history. He was really good at Arizona State under Herm Edwards, the old Herm Edwards. And they have Marvin Lewis now there, too. Anyway, so, San Francisco's looking for a go-to receiver. They hope he's the go-to receiver. I don't know, because he's got a hamstring injury, and I don't like soft tissue injuries. Those usually kind of don't go away during the season if you hobble into the season, you're going to hobble out of the season, is usually my thinking when it comes to injuries, especially soft tissue injuries. But I mean, I think he's a really good player. He's replacing Emmanuel Sanders. It's just a matter of how quickly he can learn the playbook and everything. It's hard for me to really give him a projection just because, like, he hasn't practiced. I'll say, like, 500 yards, maybe, like, four or five touchdowns. I think he can obviously do more if he's the number one, but I don't know how they're going to use him at all. I haven't seen it. I haven't had any reports about it. He's just been hurt the whole time. I really like this pick. We took Anthony McFarland. So he's the rookie out of Maryland. He's behind James Conner and Benny Snell. So he's behind James Conner and Benny Snell. He's currently in concussion protocol. He was their 4th round pick. But when he was at Maryland, he was a really good player at Maryland. He has a lot of speed. I remember watching him against Ohio State and just running away from guys. He's really quick on his feet. I could see him, honestly, next year even possibly being the starter just because I think he's more talented than Benny Snell by a lot. And as far as Conner gets nicked up and hurt a lot. So I really, really like Anthony McFarland. It would not surprise. He's got a lot of, as I say, juice in his legs. He can really fly. And he's not a bad pass blocker either. I'm hoping for a resurgence for the Steeler offense, especially because I'm a Steeler fan. And I really like Anthony McFarland. I really like him a lot. But there's a lot of bias because I'm a fan of the team. But he can really play. I just don't know how healthy he's going to be. I mean, he's a good back of the bench, like running back, but he's... Who would I compare him to? I mean, honestly, if I had to compare him to a running back, he reminds me a lot of Austin Eckler. He's just got to learn all the nuances as a player, but he reminds me a lot of Eckler. He's a really good player. It would not surprise me by the end of the year if he actually took over the backfield, just because I'm assuming Conner's probably hurt and Snell is doing Snell things, and I mean they still have Jalen Samuels, but Jalen Samuels isn't a very good pass catcher. Farland is a sneaky good player. He's just kind of short. He's not really a big dude, but really good player. He just, again, I don't know too much about him because like he hasn't been practicing. He's been in concussion protocol and everything. I like him, but availability is the most important ability. We took Gus Edwards, who's like the 3rd string running back on the Ravens. We still don't have a flex starter, by the way. This is round 17. I don't see a whole lot of Edwards getting a lot of carries because they took J.K. Dobbins in the 2nd round. So Edwards, and I think Edwards might even be behind Justice Hill now, who has passed him, who was taken last year as well. So I'm thinking maybe 25, 30 carries. I mean, not even worth keeping on my team. And then we took the free agent Antonio Brown, who suspended at least 8 games and still does not have a team. I'm not even going to go into that. I think everybody knows that whole story. So, yeah, there's Eileen's team. You can grade it. I just gave it to you. We still don't have a flex starter. The bench is real bad. I don't mind the starting lineup too much, at least the core parts of the team, I guess you could say. So if we had to go with, I'm going to put Brady on the bench. So let's go with, Matt Ryan's the quarterback, Austin Eckler's the starting number 1 running back, Monster's the number 2 running back. We'll put A.J. Brown as the number 1 wide receiver and Odell Beckham Jr. as the number 2 wide receiver. And then we'll even throw in, out of courtesy, Evan Ingram as the tight end. Those 6 players, pretty much on par with the rest of the league. That's not bad. They're pretty they're really up and down. Mostert doesn't get enough volume. Odell Beckham Jr. doesn't get enough volume. A.J. Brown doesn't get enough volume. Evan Ingram's always hurt. But, they're pretty good. The issue is just, basically the rest of the team. I would straight up, trade one of the quarterbacks for something. I need a flex. A flex. Someone breathing, who's healthy, who can play at flex, whether it be a tight end, wide receiver, running back. Literally, Justin's got a whole bunch of depth receivers. Almost any of them could be a starter on this team because we're so bereft of a flex player. I would cut Kenny Moore. There are better defensive backs right now. I can think of, if we really want a cornerback, I suppose we can go get Logan Ryan. You could get Taylor Rapp, who's a safety for the Rams. Like, that's an easy, 2 extra points a game at least. I would cut Matthew Judon, just get whatever the number 1 linebacker is. I don't know why we took 2 defensive ends, but sure. I think the number 1 linebacker currently is Jerome Baker, who was a top 20 linebacker last year, had 126 tackles. So to put that in comparison in fantasy points, he had about 206 fantasy points, and Judon had 142, so that's like over 60 more fantasy points, possibly if I just get a linebacker instead of Judon. And if you think I'm being biased, do be aware that I actually play Eileen week 1, so if she actually saw this and did those moves, it would actually like hurt me and benefit her, but I don't actually know if she's going to watch this anyway. So yeah, I'd cut Kenny Moore, I'd cut Judon. Let's see. I would trade Evans to Andre. I would trade Madison to Robbie. Robbie I hate trading with, so maybe I just keep him. I would trade one of the quarterbacks for a flex. I would cut Gus Edwards. I would cut Antonio Brown. Yeah, this team needs a lot of work. So I'm sure most of the rest of the league's probably going to watch this video and just kind of be like, oh, Dylan said Monster's pretty good. I should look at him. Or, oh, McFarland's pretty good. I should be aware of him later on in the year. And, I mean, I kind of can't disagree with that because, I mean, what are the chances Eileen captains this team to a playoff berth? Very, very slim because we kind of just ignored a lot of things. I mean, Antonio Brown suspended 8 games and isn't even on the team, but she's on his fantasy team, on her fantasy team. Like, I mean, I guess I can't talk too much because I'm carrying Devontae Freeman, who's a free agent, but at least Devontae Freeman's not, like, suspended. I imagine he'll sign somewhere. If he doesn't, I'll just cut him. But Antonio Brown's for sure not playing till like week 9 if he has a team. If he's on a team, and he's not. Because no one wants to sign him because he's suspended for 8 games. So, but we're carrying him? I don't know. We should definitely just, at the very least, just straight up cut him and just go get someone who can play flex for us. It doesn't even matter the position. Gosh. Who's an offensive player that could play? Well, we could pick up Alshon Jeffrey. We could pick up another San Francisco running back, Jerick McKinnon. I would not advise that. Cole Beasley. I mean, Hunter Renfrow. I mean, these are not exciting options, but these are better than like what we currently got. So, yeah, I don't have anything else to say about Eileen's team. This is why the team's ranked last. This is why I'm doing her team last, because it's kind of just like, whatever. So, there you go. Let me know what you think.